Here's the bonus tip. This will serve you so well. When you do answer a question, answer it as shortly as possible. And here's the trick that I used to play on female private investigator students when I would teach. I would turn to a female investigator in my class and I would ask, do you know what time it is? Inevitably, every time they would say the time. They would say, yeah, it's 10:48, or yeah, it's almost noon. That was not the question I asked. The question I asked is, do you know what time it is? The correct answer when you're testifying is simply yes or no. If the attorney wants to elicit out of you more, he or she will ask you, what time is it? Now, the reason I always chose a female student for this was because I had to pick someone who was together, who was top of the class, who had a good sense of humor, because this is the type of thing that might make a person look foolish. And every quarter, my top students, the most together people, were the female private investigator students. So that's why I would choose a female to pull this little trick on, to make a point about testifying and giving very short answers. Now here's a real life case that I worked. It was a theft case. I was going in to testify. Now the defense attorney was trying to make the case that I did not Mirandize the woman. Mirandize means to read her rights. Now as a private citizen, I am not under any obligation to do that, but this attorney was just bound and determined to try to make it look like I had skipped some important procedure and get his client off on a technicality. So the defense attorney asked me, do you know your constitutional rights? Well, to be honest with you, you can go to law school and spend a semester or two studying constitutional law. I wasn't quite sure what he was going for. I had no idea where he was going with this line of questioning. I just kind of turned to the judge. This was a judge trial and not a jury trial. And I looked at the judge and answered as well as any citizen, I suppose. There are all sorts of elements in constitutional law, including interstate commerce, and I didn't know where he was going with this. At the time, I did not know he was seeking to overturn this on the technicality that I didn't Mirandize her. The defense attorney, the next thing he asked me was, do you know what your Miranda rights are? Yes, I answered. He said, what are they? I said, they're the rights that protect us from the government. Now, what I did not know at the time was that this was what he was trying to do, and what he wanted me to do was to read off the rights to show that I know what the rights are. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. But I was simply answering in the shortest sentences, having no idea that I was dismantling his case brick by brick. This went on for a little while longer, and finally I was dismissed. Again, the defense attorney's idea was that I did not Mirandize his client, but by answering in very short, accurate sentences, I demonstrated, not even knowing that that's what I was supposed to be demonstrating, I demonstrated that I was a private citizen. I was dismissed from the witness stand. I left the courtroom. About 2 minutes later, 3 minutes later, the bailiff comes out. The trial is over. They didn't even go any further than that. The client was crying when I left, and just based on the strength of my testimony, she copped a plea. So the entire trial was done right there, just because I answered accurately and shortly, and it drove the prosecution's case right home, even though I didn't know that was the direction it was going. If you'd like to learn more things about being a private investigator, how to find people, missing persons, fugitives, whatnot, check out The Investigator's Ultimate Guide to Missing Persons and Fugitives at beapi.com. That's BEAPI.